Hey, everybody, we're Geeking Out Ninjas, and we're here to geek out. What's going on, Craig?
Oh, just Dandy hurt myself slightly before the show started playing with the kids. So
Oh, yeah,
got that
yeah.
going on. Yeah, it was we like to uh I guess we don't like to. We've done this like three times, but my oldest daughter requested it today. She was like, "Hey Dad, can we do that thing where we throw our she's got like these really small stuffed animals. She was like, "Can we do that thing where we throw the stuffed animals on the fan?"
Nice.
Let me just tell you, for parents, this is a genius thing if the kids really love this because you can literally lay on the floor and throw things at the fan and then have them go get those things. But yeah, we haven't done it in a long time, but she remembered and she was like, "Can we do that?" And then she threw one up and it got stuck in the light fixture. So the light fixture is like an open
Oh,
light fixture.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Um, so it got stuck. So I had to go get a ladder, and I was like, "All right, let me go get a ladder. I'll come back."
It was like in a bowl. Is it one of those? Like
Yeah, it's
it's
like
a,
a bowl
yeah.
sort of one, so it
Nice.
can get stuck. And went and got the ladder, got the little thing down. I'm on the bottom rung, and somehow I don't have shoes on, by the way.
Ugh.
My foot slips off the bottom rung. Actually, tore skin off the bottom of my toe. Uh,
Ooh.
and I hit the bottom of my kneecap on the third rung from the bottom, and I just like fell down. I was
Oh.
like, "Oh, I'm dying." My
Oh.
wife runs over. She's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm gonna be fine. It's just gonna just leave me here for a minute."
Ouch.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my knee was bleeding and my toe lost some skin, so it was a good time.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure growing up you were never allowed to do something like that with your parents. They didn't let you throw things at the fan.
I don't know if they didn't. Not to say that I didn't do it, but yeah,
Right.
they probably didn't want me to do it. But I also played me and my cousin would play baseball in the house, but we would
Ooh.
have like like a really squishy baseball with like a really small bat, and you'd have to like roll the ball, and we'd hit it, and you'd have to like stay on your knees and run to the bases and all that stuff. So we did a lot of things that my parents were aware of, but didn't seem to care too much about. So
Sure.
I think after a while, your parents, as long as you're not breaking anything, they're just like, meh, whatever.
Yeah, see, I broke stuff, so
Oh, I broke stuff too.
I broke a lot of stuff. I will tell you, I had one job where I worked at a movie theater, and it was a very slow movie theater. So we would
Yeah.
actually play baseball in the theater. We'd have like a Nerf ball and a bat, and we would run. We weren't on our knees. We were
Yeah.
actually, it was quite fun playing
Yeah.
home run derby is really what we called it. And we had one guy in the back running through the aisles trying to catch the ball. Oh, we did all kinds of stuff back before we had all these rules.
Back before you couldn't do anything. I've always
No.
wanted to like own a movie theater in like a small town.
Hmm.
Not like too small where you wouldn't get anybody to attend, but like small enough. Like I want to live in a town that's like 100,000 people sort of deal.
Right, right.
Um, have like a movie theater there where you can like do like an Alamo Drafthouse type style of theater where you can show other things besides new run movies and like have people do props and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, and I think bigger cities have theaters like that. We just don't.
Yeah.
Like I know Alamo Drafthouse tries to do it, but I know there are like LA, New York, Chicago. There are bigger cities that like they actually have movie theaters that's all they do is run old movies or
Yeah.
marathons and things like that. And I don't know, we just don't have that here.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd. Well, what's new with you besides hurting
Uh,
yourself on
yeah,
on a ladder?
besides hurting myself. So I am going to be fully vaccinated as of, so I already got my second shot, but I'll be fully vaccinated as of Saturday. I'm
Nice.
super excited about that because I plan on totally going to the movies whenever Black Widow comes out. So
Yes.
I miss the movie theater.
I do too. I couldn't tell you the last time that I've been to one. Um, Interesting.
I think mine was 1917 when it came out in theaters.
I
I think
didn't
it
see
was in
that.
like January of 2020.
I think Star Wars. I think we had this conversation. I think it was episode 9 for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
we did have this conversation.
We did.
I don't know if we had it on air or off air, but we had this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited about getting back. Are there any theaters open?
Yeah,
I guess Santico's is.
more theaters are opening, but yeah,
Yeah,
theaters are
yeah.
opening back up.
Because I know the ones that are near me. I know Alamo Draft House isn't open near me yet. I know they opened it for a short time, but then they're gonna. I think there are plans to open it pretty soon.
Yeah, I think the main one they had open is the 281 location.
Yeah, yeah. Very
What's
cool.
what's new with you, Jeremiah?
Well,
Or what's old with you, I guess I should say.
I'm fighting through some back pain, and not a big deal. Trying to work through that, but I will say this weekend I did attend a poker tournament,
Oh,
and
in person?
in person. Oh yeah, I've been playing poker in person for a
Not
while.
on Oculus Quest.
Not on the Quest. That's for nighttime, but I do attend a uh, a club that plays at restaurants and bars, and so we bar poker, I guess is what you would call it. But so I've been going for a few months, and so they had what they call a quarterly tournament
Ooh.
Sunday, which is for the first quarter of the year. You have to play and win within so many tournaments to earn points to get into the quarterly. So um, it was exciting. I got third.
Nice.
Very happy. It's a little bit different because I actually go play every week, but it's a little bit different. I know during the week when you go, part of playing poker at a restaurant or a bar is you buy drinks or food.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get chips. And so weekly, I'm playing against people that are they're not very good. I mean, because it's free poker, right? You don't have to, you're not paying to play. You're not
Sure.
gambling anything really. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just giving chips. But there are some people that go and they're okay, but I mean, they get their chips because they buy a lot of alcohol or a lot of food. Usually it's alcohol.
Yeah.
And so, you're always playing against someone that's just kind of chipping up, getting chips throughout to a certain point in the game. And the quarterly was different because you couldn't earn chips by ordering food or drinks. You just got the chips you started with, so it kind of leveled the odds a little bit. So it was a lot of fun. I like playing poker. It's interesting, and even though I'm fully vaccinated, I still wear a mask. I just want to be
Oh, yeah.
nice to others, so I don't want to pass it
Yes.
along if I do catch it. So
Well, the vaccinations, I mean, they're not 100% effective. You can still get
right,
you still can get COVID with the vaccine. It's very
it's
very unlikely, but it is still possible. So it's always good to wear your mask.
exactly. So we do that, and so if anybody wants to join me, I play on Monday nights at the Lion and Rose at Lock and
Nice.
Terra.
I should get you hooked up with my neighbors. They have a high stakes poker
I think
game.
you've told me about this, and I'm not
Yes.
sure that I want to play.
Yeah. It's
I'm not.
so
I'm not good. Like I'm okay.
yeah.
I
I
don't think
bet a
I'm.
lot of these people are not very good either. So I'm sure they're. I don't know what the buy-in is, but I'm guessing it's probably over your budget since
Probably
it's a
because
high stakes game.
my budget is pretty much zero. I'll tell you right
It's
now.
definitely above that.
I don't pay. I'm lucky. I may get dinner or a drink depending on what if I had dinner earlier or not. But usually, yeah, it's free poker, man. I don't worry about I don't gamble really.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, and I'm sure I've already told you this, but for our listeners who don't know, uh, there used to be a security guard that would sit in his car outside of this house to and everybody had to check in with the security guy. I don't know if they still do something like that. I know they have a camera where everybody goes in now,
Uh-huh.
so you can't get in the house without going through some sort of security.
Oh, there's all kinds of games like that. I've
Yeah,
met people who would run games like that. I mean, some
yeah.
people make money.
Oh yeah, I bet you can
Um,
make a lot of money.
you can. And so like I know the rule in Texas, like of course bar poker's free, you're not gambling, but so the rule in Texas, because in San Antonio we actually have several poker clubs, and as long as the table or the house, whatever, doesn't take a rake from each pot,
Yeah.
you can gamble. Because that's what they do in Vegas when you or
Right.
any other casino is each hand you got your pot in the middle, and each hand the house will take a portion of that, a percentage, 1%, 5%, whatever it is of the
Right.
pot. So when you play in a poker club, it's a monthly, you pay monthly dues or yearly dues, and then you pay per hour that you're sitting there. And that pays for the dealers and whatever. And then you can gamble as
Right.
long as the owners aren't taking a cut of that. So it's legal to play. I don't know why you have to have these private games where people are. It's high stakes, I guess, is really what it is.
Yeah. You want the really rich guys to have a place to hang out. So
Yeah, yeah, that's
not
crazy.
not to say that they can't tip the guy who runs the game.
True, true. That could be as well. But I'm gonna stick to free poker for a while.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody's
I'm
gonna
not.
break your legs at the free poker game.
I hope not. It hasn't happened yet. So.
Fingers crossed. All right. You want to do the precap?
Sure, dude. Tell us what's going on.
So we're going to talk a little bit about new Apple devices, electric vehicle, because I love electric cars, SpaceX, new deal with NASA, and we're going to talk about our favorite things in tech right now. Some of those may or may not be part of the news.
That's right. All right, so let's start with the news. And what do we got as our first article?
Let's do it. So Apple had their quote unquote spring loaded event yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of big announcements if you are an Apple fan. I was most impressed with their new iPad Pro. So I like tablets. I like a media consumption device. I have a Chromebook that I normally use as my media consumption device.
Mm-hmm.
And these new iPad Pros, so Apple released their new M1 chip on their like MacBook Airs, MacBook Pro, or just MacBook, and their Mac Minis last year, into last year.
Right.
Everybody since these have come out have been raving about how good these Apple devices are running,
Mm-hmm.
and usually better than comparable Windows devices. And so they put the M1 chip in their iPad Pro, and they also gave it a way better screen. The screen is
Right.
like TV level quality now, like really high end TV. It's just, I don't know. To me, that's like, oh, I think no, they didn't. Not on that one. It's just a nice um, media consumption device, and I'm sure you can be productive as well. You're gonna have to add some accessories like a keyboard, and you can also do a pen and
The Apple Pen.
the Apple Pencil or whatever they call theirs,
Yeah.
and all sorts of stuff. But it's a really it's a really nice tablet. It's the best tablet you can get. As an Android fan, there's nothing that compares to it on the Android side. Android gave up, or Google gave up on Android tablets a long time ago.
Right. Right.
They kind of moved everything to Chromebooks. But even like the Surface, the Microsoft Surface tablets and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
don't hold a candle to this. We have a Microsoft Surface that we run for our photo booth,
Right.
and this thing is bar none way better. Starts the bigger model, the essentially 13-inch model, starts at $1,100 though, so it's a little more than I would pay for a device. But I think the benefit is you're going to start seeing some of this technology probably trickle down throughout the next couple of years.
Right.
So you can only get the really nice screen on the expensive model. The 11-inch model doesn't have the really nice screen. It's still a good screen, but it's not as good. So that one starts at $800.
Well, I think you can almost. I mean, you can really, if you buy a Bluetooth keyboard. I mean, you can really use this on as a laptop. I mean, you can really do stuff on the iPad.
Yeah. I think
I
there's
mean,
still some shortcomings for my use cases, but I
well,
think you
sure,
could definitely, a lot of people, most people could
most
probably
people can
use it
use it.
as their device.
I will say one of our listeners it will be very excited about this announcement when she hears it. That's being my daughter. She graduates at
Oh,
May
nice.
in May. I don't know if y'all know that she's going to graduate from high school, and her birthday's in May.
Oh.
So she somehow wrangled the grandparents and us into pulling our money together to get her an iPad Pro.
Ooh, is she gonna
Uh,
get one of the new ones?
well, obviously now she is.
She's got it now. I
She's got to
mean,
get the new one. Well, and it's also going to help her. She got into architecture, School of Architecture at UTSA.
oh, nice.
So she'll be
My
starting
sister
there.
went through that.
Oh yeah, that's right. She actually, if you don't remember, she talked to your sister about interior design.
I do remember my sister telling me that.
Yeah, so she's very excited. So she wants the iPad because I guess she can use it in her learning to be an architect
Hopefully.
adventures. So
I think iPads are a good computer for school.
yeah, and she of course has a pen with it because I guess she's going to be drawing a lot as well. So it helps with that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I see you adjusting your camera. Are you
I
okay with
was adjusting. I was trying to make it more so it looked like I was looking at you and not just like off in no man's land because I keep looking at you, but my camera's like over on the side, so it just looks like I'm looking at nothing.
Right. Yeah. Well, you get used to that looking at the camera. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's very exciting about the new technology coming out. In this article too, it does talk about subscriptions to podcast.
Yeah, that there's been a big uproar on their subscriptions to podcasts because they're going to
And,
start charging for it.
oh, are they? Is that
I
what
believe
this
so.
article says?
Which gives you, yeah, so they're going to start charging you to have a subscription so that you can have ad-free podcasts.
Right. Right.
Which I'm going to be honest, I doubt anybody cares about the ads in a podcast. There are a lot of podcast apps that either can skip the ads or they
Mhm.
can go a lot faster through ads. I mean, there's a lot of ways to kind of minimize the ads to some degree.
Right.
I think this is a bad move for podcasting, personally.
It's hard to say because I know a lot of podcasts. Well, I know there's like a bajillion podcasts in the world right now,
There are like a million podcasts plus.
and I believe most podcasters are not really into this, or they're not. At least they're not getting paid,
Yeah.
right? And so I know the way advertisers are trying to. Basically, this is because of advertising is why they're going to this paid subscription.
Right.
Is that it's very difficult for these ad companies to really determine which podcasts are actually if their ads are actually being listened to within the podcast. And so this is kind of a way for them to still try to advertise and kind of measure and make sure that they're getting their money's worth.
There won't
Um,
be any advertisements though. That's the thing. So
well,
it'll be no this so with the subscription
that's
there
what
will
they
be no
say.
ads and you'll have to get your revenue from Apple. So it'll be whatever money they have, they're going to divvy out between all the different podcasts.
Well, true, and there's other services that already do this, and I think they're
Yeah.
pretty popular. There's one that just slips my mind, um, but there are ways to get around that. And when you join a subscription,
My only fear is that
Rockfin, I think Rockfin is one. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. I think my biggest fear with something like this is you're going to end up not you're going to end up keeping people from listening to podcasts. Um, so they're going to be stuck behind a paywall, if you will. And so now you have to subscribe to listen to that podcast. And I think that could be a detriment to the podcast community. Because it could be like a really popular podcast. I'm not a big fan of Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan's the biggest example that everybody has. He used to pretty much just podcast on YouTube, and I think he put a podcast out there for free and with advertisements. But then he moved to Spotify,
Right.
and you couldn't listen to his podcast anywhere else. And so there was a huge uproar about him having exclusive rights on Spotify. Nobody else could listen to him any other way unless you subscribed to Spotify. So I think
Well, that's changed.
on his podcast,
I'm pretty sure that's changed.
I haven't heard anything different.
I'll have to look into. I listen to his podcast sometimes, but I am a subscriber to Spotify. But only recently, within the last couple of months, have I actually subscribed to Spotify. And it wasn't because of him, but I was getting his podcast on Google Podcast. But
it used to be open and free. It's a more recent thing that he switched over.
I do know, even with the subscription to Spotify, the first 5 minutes of his podcast is ads.
Oh, really?
And actually, there are ads in the middle of his podcast now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe are you paying for Spotify or are you getting it for free?
No, I'm paying the family. I have the family plan on Spotify.
Oh, okay.
Which I'll be honest, I think we've had this discussion too. I don't really like Spotify.
Yeah, neither do I. I tried to switch to it and I didn't like I didn't like a lot of the things it does.
I don't either, but the kids like it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's useful to make my own playlist, but I mean, but getting back to it, yeah, he's got ads, and they're also in the middle of his podcast as well, one or two. So
his is a little bit different. I think his was just like come to be solely on Spotify.
Right.
We'll pay you like $1 bajillion to do it. So
and I don't blame him. I mean,
kudos to him for making that money.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's the gold star of podcasting right there, is to be able to start something with nothing and then have it grow. So
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple other things to announce. Apple has released a brand new, completely redesigned iMac.
Yes.
It's a bunch of different colors, really slim. I'm not a big fan. It reminds me of like the old, like white iMacs.
With the back of it was colored, or the trim.
Yeah, like, so the bezel around the screen is all white, and then it's got like a colored chin that matches. And by chin, I mean there's like a bar. It's like a 2-inch thick bar at the bottom. That's colored to match the back of the device. I'm not a big fan. Like, I feel like it would have been better if they would have got rid of that chin at the bottom. Like, make it a little bit thicker, but get rid of the chin and just make it look like a regular screen.
Yeah, but I think they're still pretty slick. I mean, I like color.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the color. Some of the colors I could, do without. But
I think they put the speaker down there too, though, don't they?
They do put the speaker at the bottom, but they could have made it just slightly thicker.
Sure.
And had the same effect. But I mean, who cares how thick the display is? Like, I have monitors on my desk. I couldn't tell you how thick they are because I never look at the side of my monitors. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think Apple users those tend to like the thin, the crisp, clean lines, and
I mean, you can still make it a clean, thin device. I mean, it still could be really thin, but just a little bit thicker, and you could make it look better in the front, because that giant chin at the bottom just looks terrible to me. And like, why is it white bezels? Like, why would you want white bezels around the screen?
Maybe, I'm in defense of Apple in this because I actually have a very large chin, and so it doesn't bother me.
I could have just done without it. I would have been fine without that part.
Sure.
That's my biggest thing. But they did include a new wireless keyboard that has Touch ID. So
that's nice.
It's a new thing. And this is supposedly their best webcam in a Mac ever. Which is not a huge achievement, though, because all the other ones are kind of garbage, like other built-in webcams.
Pretty much.
So,
yeah. Well, they're pretty cheap now, though, and so you can get some really garbage ones.
Yeah, they really are. I think, to me, one of the bigger announcements is their new AirTag item tracker.
Yes.
So obviously you have like Find My Phone or Find My iPad, Find My Mac, all those things built into the Find My network, as they like to call it.
Right.
This like adds it to other physical devices. So you could put it on your keys or your purse or your luggage or your
Right.
dog or whatever you could possibly imagine you could put this on. It's coin shaped. I don't know the exact size. Maybe it's like a silver dollar-ish size.
You think it's
And
that big?
I think so.
Okay.
And it's maybe the thickness of a couple coins. Um, but I think it's $29 for one of them, and it is so people who are watching can actually on YouTube can actually see what this looks like. I'm trying to describe it the best that I can. Um, and it um, it's $99 for four of them. So if you know you're going to have a bunch of things you want to put this on, I know for sure I'm totally going to buy at least one, maybe two for my wife because she's always looking for things.
Right.
I
Right.
wish they made one small enough for her sunglasses. I would totally put one on her sunglasses.
I'm sure that's
Um,
not too far off.
yeah, it's definitely not that small. The good thing
Not
about
yet.
this that I think is better than most other tracking devices, you can actually change the battery out yourself. It's just a
Yes.
regular. You're probably not familiar with these. They're CR2032 batteries. They're like in every computer. The BIOS battery in every computer. They're in like I'm stuck on this agillion thing. They're in a lot of devices. I really got to stop saying it. It's driving me crazy, and I'm the one saying it. They're in a bunch of devices. They're easy to find. They're really inexpensive.
Oh yeah. I actually bought a couple yesterday from Walgreens.
There you go.
Look.
You can buy like a 5 or 10 pack for like
Mhm.
I don't know, not very much money. So I think it's a great thing that they allowed you to do that. If it's not rechargeable, at least you can completely change out the whole battery. That way you don't
Right.
have to just toss this thing out.
Yeah.
Um,
And they last for years.
they do last a long time. They didn't say what the battery life is on these trackers. At least I don't remember them saying it, but I imagine they're going to probably last a really long time.
Of course.
So one of the cool things about the way it tracks, so obviously I think it'll beep, so it's got like a built-in speaker in it.
Mhm.
But you can have your phone direct you towards it. So it puts an arrow on your phone and it like points you towards this device, making it a little bit easier to find. So because I doubt it makes a really loud noise because
Right. Right.
the speaker's inside and got to preserve that battery as much as possible. So
Mhm.
pretty cool. They released a new Apple TV 4K,
You're right.
slightly better in every way, with a new remote because everybody apparently hated the other remote.
Well, you know, everybody
It,
hates remotes.
yeah, well, their other one was supposedly way less functional than it should have been, compared to a lot of other device,
Mhm.
like set-top box devices. It starts at $180 though, which is a little too much for me.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I just can't think of anything better to say. I'm kind of lost
it's
for words right now.
it's like a cajillion dollars. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, for a device to be able to, I mean, I know you can access your Apple products and other things, but man, $180. I don't know.
Yeah, so just for those who, if you're not into Apple devices or you want something that is very comparable to the Apple TV, get a Chromecast with Google TV. It's not just a regular Chromecast, it's an actual, there's an interface, there's a remote. I actually have the remote right here. I have
Mm,
one. It's $50.
right.
Accomplishes the exact same thing. Um, it's just, it works really well. I love it a lot. I've had mine for a few months and just it's just really nice to use. And it has like a universal search feature, just like the Apple TV. It has all the
Mhm.
same apps as the Apple
Right.
TV, like, but it's like a third the price.
I know.
It's
I know.
$50 versus $180. It's just it's hard for me to to like $120 I could see, maybe $180. It's just way too much.
Well, I'm sure they ran test markets and they figured out that this price is probably where they want to be
For their
for their product. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So that was the Apple event.
Yeah. It was exciting.
I watched most of it. It was pretty good.
You didn't say that the iPhone 12 will soon come in purple. You missed that in the article.
I did. I didn't know. I know you're a big purple fan, so maybe you'll
Huge
finally get
purple.
an iPhone. But
No.
if it can't convert Jeremiah, then it doesn't really have any chance, does it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm waiting for my purple Pixel.
I don't think that'll ever happen. You're gonna have to get a D brand skin or something.
Well, you never know.
You keep holding out hope.
I
Someday.
do. I do.
Someday.
I don't know why that color fascinates me, but so let's talk about Cadillac. Let's keep moving.
Yeah. So Cadillac has recently announced the Hummer EV, completely changing that brand from a gas guzzling vehicle to an electric vehicle, which is great, but it also starts at like $100,000. So it's way
Right.
out of the price range of like the normal person.
The Hummer was a bit pricey as well, though.
Yeah, it was really expensive. I think that the market for that device is going to be real small.
Sure.
It's like EVs already have a smaller market. Like, why make it even harder to get into one? But so they announced a new Cadillac, the Lyric. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correct. It's LYRIQ. But it's a compact SUV, just like every SUV is now. Every car is turning into a slightly taller SUV. I have my own thoughts on SUVs and how dumb I think they are, but you can ask my wife. I'm anti SUV in every shape and form. It's $60,000, which is definitely more reasonable. It's still out of the price range of like 70 to 80% of the population, though.
But I think for a Cadillac, that's a relatively low price to get into a Cadillac.
I honestly don't know. I think it's great that they're shooting for a younger demographic. This is definitely a better looking Cadillac than some of even the more recent ones. I think the last couple of years, they've actually released some pretty good looking devices. Jeremiah's pulling it up. It's sleek looking.
It's got the interior.
Yeah, it's got really nice accent lighting in the interior, really big screens. The screen is horizontal, which, it is what it is.
Well, I kind of like that because it's not broken up. It's just one continuous horizontal screen as opposed to having just all your right in front of the wheel, having, a screen and then a section and then another screen off. I like that it's all one. That kind of looks.
I see what you're saying because it's all one piece of glass.
Right.
It does actually look like it's just one screen too. Like some of them I've seen recently. I think Mercedes announced their new electric vehicle like last week, and it's one big piece of glass, but it's actually like 2 or 3 separate screens. It's actually huge. I think it goes all the way to the passenger's seat. But yeah, this one actually looks like it's just one gigantic screen from all the way from the left of the steering wheel to the right of the center console area. So it's pretty massive. It's as much as SUVs kind of look the same. This one has a slightly distinct style that, I mean, still kind of looks like a lot of other SUVs with the sloping roof line and all that stuff, but it definitely looks distinct to Cadillac. I wouldn't mistake this for any other vehicle like I do some other SUVs that all definitely look the same. But yeah, I think it looks really good. What's interesting is you showed that last picture and the charging port, it's like there's a whole panel, a whole section of the car that has to drop down to reveal the charging port, which is an interesting design decision.
Well, I guess they're just really trying to hide it so it doesn't look like a charging port.
Yeah, my fear is that it would be something that would break a lot easier, being that large, because I feel like there's a lot more chance of someone bumping into it.
Well, but it's just like when you pump your gas. I mean, it's a pretty big, when you have a standard vehicle, your little pump thing pops out. I don't think
Yeah.
it's much bigger than that.
I don't know, Jeremiah. This looks like it's like a foot wide by a foot tall.
I could be. I'm not good at measuring. I mean, when I look at
I'm
it
basing
now,
it on the charge port.
it only looks about this big, about
Yeah,
six
on the screen.
inches.
I'm basing it on the charge port because I know how big that charge port is, and it's not very. It's maybe like 2 inches across.
Now, is that the same interface that like Tesla uses as far as the charge port,
No,
or?
they use a different one. So this one actually is only showing the level 2 charger. So it's the round. It's a round charger charging port with like 5 contacts.
Mhm.
Below that, there is actually a separate charging port where you'd have to flip that down probably manually, and so that gets you the faster charging.
Okay.
There's more connections down there, so you won't see those very often.
Mhm.
They look really massive. Tesla's is a lot smaller than even the three than that circular one.
Okay.
And they do the fast charging with just that small port. So I don't know why they need all of these places to plug in. But
Mhm.
yeah, so range should be at least 300 miles, which is exciting. I think that should be the minimum,
Right.
to be honest. Um, I think if people are to want to get into electric vehicles, they're going to have to start doing a better job of getting better range in these vehicles,
Mhm.
because that is the number one fear I think most people have. And even though you probably won't ever run out of electricity, it's a mental hurdle that people have to get past.
Sure. Sure.
And if you're starting out with 150, 200, 250 miles of range, I think you've already lost the battle with the majority of gas uh, car owners. So I think it's good that the range is at least 300 miles. That's a really big thing, at least for me,
Mhm.
and I think it is probably for a lot of people as well.
100%.
Um, so yeah, it's got some DC fast charging as well. Can add 76 miles in 10 minutes. That doesn't actually sound that fast, compared to, I think, some of the Porsches and Teslas. Um, I think some of them can actually almost double the charge rate that this one does. This one's 195 miles in 30 minutes. Once again, doesn't seem that fast.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a great move for Cadillac to continue to release more and more vehicles. I think GM said they're trying to electrify their whole fleet by 2035.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so you're going to see them release more and more of these vehicles, probably once a year, through all their different brands, because GM owns so many different brands.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a good move in the right direction.
I think so. I think it's a lot of fun seeing all these cars come out. I'm gonna say the SUV. You're still younger than I am, and so as you get older, a car sometimes is a little bit difficult to get in and out of. So this mid-size or small SUV does make it easier to get in the vehicle and exit without having to lower yourself down and push yourself up.
Sure.
Considering I've had hip surgery once already, so it's not always easy to enter and exit my little car. That's just, it happens.
Sure. Sure. All right. On
Well,
to our next article,
in
right?
our last article here, I'm going to say I talked to someone who a podcast listener, and they really think that you are just you're in love with SpaceX. It seems like they noticed.
Oh yeah. Was this your daughter?
I think it was her boyfriend actually.
Oh really?
He's like, he really likes SpaceX, doesn't he? I was like, yeah, he does. He's addicted to it. I don't know about that, but
I think they have a lot going on right now.
yeah.
But this next one I think is really exciting for space exploration. So NASA has picked SpaceX to land the next Americans on the moon. Not to say anything of the fact that I feel like we should be beyond the moon at this point, but I think we should probably be trying to go to Mars. But the government pays what the government pays for.
Right.
And this is
soon
apparently
enough.
what they chose.
That's a long trip.
Yeah. What's great about this is, so I've been talking about their Starship for, since the beginning of our podcast, and how they're still trying to land these starships. This is a slightly modified Starship that will go to the moon. What's funny about this though is that, so I don't know how nerdy I should get with
get nerdy.
Geeky I should get with space exploration, because I don't know how much people care about. But NASA has been paying for a rocket called this SLS, Space Launch System, for the last, since I think before the space shuttle was retired.
Mm-hmm.
They've shelled out tens of billions of dollars for this thing. Still hasn't flown at all. And SpaceX has lapped them
right
at this point, and they're still paying for it. And the funny thing about this whole thing is, the plan as it stands right now to get people to the moon, to get astronauts to the moon, is to have them fly up in an SLS rocket to dock with a Starship, and the Starship would then take them to the moon. I'm like, why? What's the point? Can't they just go up on the Starship and then head to the moon from there?
Right.
But that's the way the government works, and I could totally get into this super hardcore if I really wanted to, and I don't want to bore people because I feel like it could get real nerdy. If you're really into this kind of thing, check out the website Ars Technica, arstechnica.com. They're my favorite website on the internet. If you're into science, technology, anything like that, they are the best website out there for that kind of thing. But there's a lot of people who love space exploration on this website.
Yes.
And the articles are great, but the comments section, they're all very intelligent comments. They're not there's not a lot of trolls in there. But it's fun to read the comments and how everybody talks about how the government is run in regards to space exploration, and how you got to keep certain senators happy to make this whole thing run. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, so super great that they've chosen the Starship. And I think they chose it for the simple fact that SpaceX is proven at this point.
Right.
They're the only commercial proven company on the planet that can launch over and over and over. Granted, they haven't done it with Starship yet, but it's using the same engines that they used for the Falcon 9, which flies an insane amount of times every year. They set a record where they flew that more in a year than I think everybody else has flown in I don't want to mess it up, but they have flown the Falcon 9 more in its lifetime than every other spaceship combined. It's insane.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a reliable vehicle. They know they can trust it. They know the engines work really well. And SpaceX has proven themselves to NASA over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And their relationship and partnership has gotten really good. So I think it's really cool. We're gonna send people back to the moon, and it's gonna be on a Starship. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And to Raina's boyfriend, yes, I do love SpaceX.
Awesome. All right, so let's get to the main event. What we are excited about right now in tech. I think this is some good stuff here. So why don't you start us off? Because I like, well, I don't know which one you're going to start with, but I do like all of yours.
So technology is a really broad thing. I thought about a lot of different things like we could talk about, and I'm like, I feel like I should, because you could talk about like wireless headphones and TVs and like all sorts of like consumer technology and stuff. And I was thinking, well, maybe video conferencing, and I was like, nah, that's kind of played out. But
Boring.
yeah, so I thought a lot broader in how technology really is in almost every facet of our lives at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest ones right now is with the vaccine.
Right.
So they're using a technology called mRNA, which is messenger RNA. Actually, I'm on the CDC website to try and explain a little bit about how the mRNA vaccine works. Because I probably couldn't explain it really well.
Now, can I just
Yes,
label it?
please.
It doesn't change your DNA.
No, it doesn't. Is
Okay.
that a thing that people think?
Craig, it is. Sadly, it is. I just
Okay.
wanted to put it out there to make sure it doesn't, people know this does not change your DNA.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me read from, and I know this is not super exciting stuff, but let me read from the CDC websites how mRNA vaccines work. The COVID-19 mRNA vaccine gives instructions for our cells to make a harmless piece of what is called the spike protein, which is what the COVID-19 virus is. The spike protein is found on the surface of the virus that causes COVID-19. Well, there you go. I just repeated what I said. So first, COVID-19 mRNA vaccines are given in the upper arm muscle. Once the instructions, the mRNA, are inside the immune cells, the cells use them to make the protein piece, which is that spike protein. After that protein piece is made, the cells break down the instructions and get rid of them. I don't know if I could make that clearer. I know that probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but next, the cells display the protein piece on its surface. Our immune systems recognize that the protein doesn't belong there, and they begin building an immune response and making antibodies, like what happens in natural infection against COVID-19. At the end of the process, our bodies have learned how to protect against future infection. The benefit of an mRNA vaccine, like all vaccines, is those vaccinated gain this protection without ever having to risk the serious consequences of getting sick with COVID-19. So it works similar to how all vaccines have worked in the past, but it's almost safer. And it's a lot easier for them to create this. So going back to measles and mumps, those vaccines, they would literally take a little bit of the virus, dilute it and add some other stuff, and then they would inject it back into your body just enough to where your body could recognize it, fight it off, and create an immunity to it without you having to get full on sick with measles or mumps or what have you. So this kind of takes it to the next level. So you can essentially with mRNA program in what you want the body to fight against. In this case, that spike protein that's found in COVID-19. You can code that into the vaccine and then inject it into your body. And then your body, without having to ever be exposed to COVID, is then like, oh crap, what's this? What's the spike thing? That doesn't belong here. Let me attack it. And now let me be like, you know what? Now that I've attacked it, I know that this is bad and I should not let it live in this body ever again. And so if I ever see it again, I'm going to immediately attack it and kill it. And so that's essentially what vaccines do. Your body's immune response, natural immune response, attacks something that looks like or is a smaller form of that virus, and so it creates that immunity to um, all other types of that virus. What's cool about mRNA though is that you can program it to fight all sorts of different diseases and even like cancer, which blows my mind. So they're looking at making mRNA vaccines for the flu, but not just flu, but it'll be for all the flus at one time.
Yes.
That's the cool thing to me. It's like, okay, so normally when you have a flu shot, it's just a random guess. They're like, this is the one we think is going to be the prevalent flu of the year. But in the future with mRNA, and they've been working on mRNA for like the last 20 years, it's just taken a pandemic for them to get the correct funding, the amount of funding that they need to really do all of the research to take it to the next level. But you can include all those different kinds of flus and put them in here into this mRNA vaccine, and now you're immune to all of the flus. And so flu season turns into nothing at that point, which is amazing. And they're applying it to other things that they've never been able to create a vaccine for, things such as Zika or rabies. And the fact that they're trying to create cancer vaccines with mRNA, which would have never been possible with anything else. It's an exciting time to be alive with this kind of technology. It works in a way that's not harmful to your body. It's safe for you. Obviously, they're testing this out with hundreds and thousands of people before we ever get to experience it in our own bodies. And there's people with 6 months of immunity already, at least with like the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine for COVID.
Right.
They've had these vaccines in their body for 6 months and they're all perfectly fine. And now I was reading an article with one of the people who was in the test, who couldn't say he was in the test before, but now he can, obviously, because everybody's getting their vaccine. But Moderna and Pfizer already creating like boosters and for different variants, but also just to keep immunity up as high as possible. And he was like, bring it on. Like, I've never felt better. Like, the fact that he doesn't have to worry so much about getting this virus, and he's like perfectly healthy after it is amazing. Vaccines in general are amazing, but this mRNA form of vaccines, I think, is just going to take healthcare to the next level. So
100%. And again, not to make light of the pandemic, but we don't get here without the pandemic. We don't get to the innovation doesn't take place without something major like what happened last year. And yes, and the fact that they were able to put this together in a relatively short time and it work is pretty amazing.
Well, so like I said, they've been working on this for like 20 years. So it's not something that they just thought up recently. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about what you said. I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is not like a new technology. It's new to us because this is the first time that we've had to be exposed to it or have to know about it.
Right.
But the people who have been doing this research have been doing it for a really long time. It just takes a lot of money, as as most things do, to come up with some sort of cure or to increase the amount of testing and different things that you can do. Trying times always brings out tons of money. You always find out where the money is whenever bad things start hitting the fan. So like you said, it's bad that we had to go through a pandemic, but it's great in the sense that now we're getting to use this technology for a lot of beneficial things for everybody.
Exactly.
I think you're going to see a lot of different types of cancer get eradicated because of this technology. So I look forward to that. It may not happen anytime soon, but I think there's a lot of stuff coming in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. So you just cut out there. You doing okay?
Oh yeah. Was that me that cut out?
Well, I'm not on wireless, my friend.
Neither am I. I was just saying,
could be me.
it's just exciting to see, what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years with this kind of technology. So,
Right. 100%. Well, mine's not as heavy as that. That's a good one and a heavy one though. That's a little serious. I'm excited about.
That's how I always do these, right? I always have like one that's serious.
You do. I like to hit to the entertainment right away. I got to say, one of my favorite things going on right now is just the advances we're making in VR. I've talked about it before. I love VR. Did I mention it last week? Like, I took a trip to New York City.
Yeah.
On our Oculus Quest 2. I was in Dubai, like in aerial views and into Central Park. I mean, there's just so much that they're doing now with VR. And we talked about an article last week where you're gonna be able to access different games through your PC wirelessly, but so many more things are just make life. I would never go to Dubai. Never.
Yeah.
I'm not going there. But I can in my VR, and I can go underwater. I mean, just in the social aspect of it, I play VR poker. I do that a lot. And I'm talking with people from all over the country, Australia, Great Britain, and we're just having conversations like while we're playing poker.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do that with chat, but I don't type very fast. It's just,
and it's not the same. It's not a real time.
Right. And so I'm just very excited what we're doing with VR. And I know it's virtual reality and it's still looking at a screen, but it's just making possibilities for things that you could never ever experience. So I'm excited about it.
I definitely think it's a great way to experience a lot of different things that you wouldn't necessarily get to experience, and not just like going to other places, but I just it helps it. They're using it for treatment,
right?
Being like this, it's exposure treatment. You're exposed to things such as just being afraid of the heights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more you're exposed to those things, the less likely you are to have a fear of them.
To fear them, yeah.
So and they're using it for other things as well. I just can't think of it right now. But yeah, I think the possibilities are endless for what they can do with VR, because it really does transport you to a whole different place when you're in there. Mm-hmm. It is kind of like the holodeck to some extent if you're a Star Trek fan. Not to the same extent, but it's the first step to get there.
Exactly. I would love a holodeck.
Yeah, your brain tricks you into believing you're in those places. So it is really, really cool. And I think the better it progresses and the better the technology gets on the screens and the tracking of your movements and things, the just more immersive it's going to be. Right. The better those things get. So I think it's a lot of great things coming.
100%. What's number 2 on your list?
We'll go with video games. So this is not too far off from VR, but video games, and I feel like at this point in my life, and I'm not just talking about me, but in my lifetime, there are so many different kinds of video games that almost nobody can say anything negative about video games at this point.
Right.
You think of all the people who are playing games on their phone. Those are video games. Mm-hmm. All the people who are playing Facebook games. Those are video games. All the people that are playing Nintendo Switch games or what have you. Mm-hmm. The video game industry has never been bigger. It's a massive industry. And I think it has the ability to connect people in a way that a lot of things don't, because you really just kind of get into playing with strangers. I've made friends playing video games. You just, like, we would talk and hang out like after or before we would play video games, and we would just chat and talk. We got to know a lot about each other. He lived in Washington State, and got to know his wife and his daughter and all that stuff. So it has a way to bring people together that a lot of other avenues don't, because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of negative things about people playing video games, but there's a lot of really good stuff where
Yes.
you get to know a lot of people and just make really lifelong friends playing video games. But video games are just like a great escape. Like VR is a great escape. Video games are a great escape because there are so many different kinds of video games. Obviously, you can have like a Call of Duty game where it's really violent and that kind of thing, which is not always my, game of choice. But then you have games where I can sit there and I can play with my daughter and we can have like a bonding moment where we're just playing and having a really good time and just laughing and goofing around and even simple things like we're changing costumes on my character or whatever and she's like, oh, try
yeah.
that one and try that one and try that one. And it's like all the little things. I feel like there's so much good about video games and there's so little of it that's talked about, and it's always video games are always talked about negatively. But those people are not the people who are playing video games.
Right.
So they don't understand or know what's really great about video games. And I mean, they're just really great. They let you experience things that you wouldn't normally get to experience or be in situations
Right.
that
Challenge
you wouldn't
you.
necessarily, challenge you in ways you wouldn't get challenged and that you wouldn't want to be challenged maybe in real life, but
Correct. Yeah.
it's like you get to live out a fantasy to some degree of this is something that I've always wanted to do, but in real life I would never do it. Like this just seems stupid in real life to do something like this. Or you get to be like a treasure hunter and like live out an Indiana Jones movie or something with like Uncharted. And it's just there's a lot of great things, and the storytelling is really immersive. I talked about The Last of Us 2 in one of our podcasts a couple weeks back. That kind of immersive storytelling can't, and I know they're going to make a TV series, but it can't really be replicated in a TV or a movie because you're not as involved. You're not that person.
It's not first person. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're playing as that character in the video game, there's just a different feeling you get, and you're experiencing everything that character's going through. So it's just immersive in a way that you don't get in a lot of other forms of entertainment or art, if you will. So
Yeah, well, during the pandemic, that's one of the things I think that kept my son, who was a preteen at the time, sane, was being able to play video games with his friends and get loud and chat and do kid stuff with other kids without having to be in the same room. So there are as many negatives as there are. I think there are just as many, if not more, positives that do come with it. There are experiences that you get with that. 100%.
What's your number 2, Jeremiah?
Okay, so my number 2 is just the advancements that we're getting with virtual assistant and just apps on our phone. I mean, the fact that there's so many things I can ask Google to do, and Google does it, or Alexa or Siri, whatever.
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, they do it.
Yeah.
And AI is learning and trying. Not that I think Google or Alexa is going to be our best friend or anything, but the fact that there are things that we can do hands-free, or if we're cooking or in the car, the fact that I can just ask and it's able to be done for me. In addition to that, like phone apps, like there's so much now that I can do on my phone.
Yeah.
That is just coming from, and you're part of this too. We grew up in an age where, we didn't have this kind of stuff. It was like Star Trek. It was dreams. It was like, but to be able to do the number of things that we can do with just a touch of a phone or voice, just seemed like science fiction. And the fact that we can do it now, I think is really, really amazing.
Yeah.
I got so excited with my sprinkler system. Not that, I really do much interaction with, but the fact that I can interact now with my phone, whether I'm at home or at work, I mean, that kind of stuff just kind of like to me is amazing.
Yeah.
And everything that we can do and more stuff, it just gets better and better. And I mean, our kids just don't know how good they have it.
Oh yeah.
And just as far as technology is coming and where it's going, it's just, I think now we're realizing, especially when you have a pandemic, you realize how important family time is. And these advancements that we're getting on our phone or virtual assistant really makes it more time for us to spend with family. Because in the end, that's what really matters, right? Spending time with our family, our loved ones. And so I think this just gets us there and allows us to do so much more uh, interaction with the family and loved ones than if we didn't. If I had to go out and work on this sprinkler system, every weekend to try to figure it out, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Now I can do it on the phone. It's just simple things like that. It really, really is just very, very cool and very exciting.
Yeah. I definitely agree. And I think some of the advancements are getting to the point where the apps can almost take the place of you having to like explain to the virtual assistant, whether it's
Right.
Siri or Google or Alexa, like what you want to do. You just kind of pre-program it in there to do something, and it's like you don't have to worry about it. I think
Mhm.
that is one of the bigger benefits for me, is that I just don't have to. I think about it once, I set it up, and I forget about it, and now it's like good to go, and it's like one less thing that's going to take up my time and my mental capacity to do each day or weekly or whatever. I mean, that kind of time savings is really nice.
Yeah. All right. Number three.
My number three is electric vehicles. I feel like this should
What?
be not a huge surprise to most people, since I talk about electric vehicles almost every week on this podcast. Um, Electric vehicles, I think they're finally starting to come into their own to some degree. You've started with some, I think, so the Leaf was the Nissan Leaf was the biggest vehicle, uh,
hmm
biggest electric vehicle for the longest time.
Right. Right.
It was a good little vehicle, not great range when it first came out. I think it was like 70 miles or something like that.
hmm
But it was a great first step. I'll give kudos to Nissan for putting it out there, keeping it around for a really long time, and essentially creating the market in the first place. Then you have a company like Tesla come and they take it to the next level. They
hmm
are now releasing vehicles that are 200 plus miles of range when they first came out. I don't know the exact range, but and then they release vehicles that are 300 miles, and now they're less expensive, and now they're you know people are able to actually afford electric vehicles to some, for the most part, and they actually look good and you want to buy them,
hmm
which was a big first step. And so now the market is starting to mature into the point where it's like all the other car manufacturers are having to take note, and they're like, oh crap, we have to do this as well to keep up with everybody. And so you're seeing it not just in, I mean, all the manufacturers are starting to electrify their vehicles, but you're also seeing it in the technology that you're getting in these vehicles
hmm
now. So everybody compared their vehicles to Tesla's vehicles, and they're like, "Oh crap, we got to like keep up with this technology." So obviously, electric vehicles are the future of vehicles. You can dispute that if you want to, but all the car manufacturers deciding that they're going to start switching their vehicles
Right.
over is indisputable fact that it's going to happen. Um, It's not as scary as it seems, I promise. That first step is maybe a little scary, but once you're in there, it's really a lot nicer
hmm
to not have to worry about going to the gas station. Like, oh man, so I'm driving a loaner right now, and I hate it so much. So it's a Toyota RAV4, so it's not a bad vehicle. I love Toyotas. I had only owned uh not only owned. I owned Toyota, like two Corollas before I had this, and then I had a Ford Ranger, which was technically my parents', but that was my
hmm
first vehicle. Um, and so going from my Model 3, an electric vehicle, to a gas powered vehicle, I got, after like the first like day or two, I was like, man, I totally took for granted my car. Like, Like I knew that I loved my car, and I hate driving just like you. Like
Sure.
I
Yeah.
hate it with a passion, but
Mm.
driving my Model 3 does not bother me. I actually enjoy driving my vehicle. Because you really don't comprehend this until you've driven an electric vehicle. And I urge you to go out and just test drive an electric vehicle. Even if you're not going to buy one, just test drive
Right.
it. Just see what it's like on the other side. Um, and the smoothness of an electric vehicle is unmatched.
Hmm.
Like it's unbelievably smooth. And what's funny to me is so I had been driving my car probably for like a year, and I was newly hired at Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union (RBFCU), and I was taking a couple of my coworkers to lunch in my car, and one of the guys commented, "It's like, oh man, it's so smooth." And in my head, I'm like making excuses, and I'm like, yeah, I mean it's smooth, but it's not like super smooth. And then now I'm like driving this gas powered car again. I'm like, oh crap, it really is like it's a night and day difference.
Hmm.
The quietness of the car is so much different. The fact that I don't have to worry about getting gas ever, like I had to get
Right.
gas again, and that was like, oh man, I've got to like worry about how much. And to me, it's almost like the opposite of what people think. So everybody's always like, man, I got to get gas, right?
Right.
You got to think about, man, I got to get gas. Oh crap, I'm really low on gas. Here's the deal. I never thought about that in my Model 3. Never
Right.
think about, oh, I need a charge, I need to plug in. Granted, on longer trips, I have to think about that kind of thing. But my day-to-day commute, I'm literally plugging in when I get home, and I'm fully charged to go the next day. Like I'm
Hmm.
never thinking, oh, I've got to stop and get gas, or I've got to stop and charge.
Yeah.
It like completely changes your thinking of how you own your vehicle. Obviously, you have to have a charger in your house, and not everybody can do that because they don't have a house or, what have you. So yeah, I understand that, but it's, it really is a transformative technology. And I think the more and more they're out there, the more and more people will be exposed to them, and the more that they're just going to fall in love with an electric vehicle. I know the doubt is there for a lot of people right now, and maybe you have some doubt right now too, but it really is a different experience once you own an electric vehicle.
Well, that's the first thing when I went for a ride in yours. It's so smooth. That's the first thing I noticed. And I 100% want an electric vehicle, not for traveling yet, but I know at least for day-to-day driving,
Yeah.
it would be so much better. Oh, I'm totally looking forward to that. To my next purchase, which will be an electric vehicle of some sort.
Ooh. Ooh.
It will be for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the kids or the wife will get, but that'll be my next vehicle, 100%.
Nice.
100%. All right, so my last one here. We'll end this with um, somewhat of
It's a
a
pretty good one.
mature
A mature
um,
answer.
answer to this question. So I just and it just goes back to what I said about the last one is where we come from, being our age and older. The favorite thing, this my most favorite thing with technology right now is just our access to knowledge. And there are so many things now that I don't have a clue about,
Yeah.
but within a few seconds, I can know.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to remember what life was like prior to Google or prior to the internet, being able to access anything that I want. If I want to know sports stats, or if I want to know um, when was the first space shuttle to go up that didn't go on the moon, or whatever. I mean, whatever
Yeah.
it is. I mean, just having instant access to knowledge is a very, very powerful thing. And again, it goes back, the kids can do research papers, and I know you've still got to cite where you get your research from, but the fact that you don't have to go and sit in a library and
Yeah.
find books on it, you can find reliable websites um, about anything at all. And that's, I've never necessarily been expert on a certain specific thing. And so this time and age is just really great for me because I like to think I'm a jack of a lot of trades. And so
Yeah.
being able to learn something on the fly, or I know a little bit, and then now I know a lot more, just taking 10 or 15 minutes, whether it's a website or a video, and then I can figure something out without having to call 10 different people to find the right answer.
Yeah.
I just,
Calling the expert.
yeah. And having just, I love conversations now too I can go and have a intelligent conversation with so many more people because I can pretty much find something relatable because we have access to everything and
Yeah.
all of this and all of that. And even if I just know a little bit, we can still have a great conversation and share and learn. And this is the best time to learn. Let me tell you, it's just, there's so many ways to learn now. It's not just all books, or it's just not all from a professor or from a school.
Or
There's
an
so many
encyclopedia.
um,
The Encyclopedia Britannica.
yeah, like we didn't have a set of encyclopedias growing up, and so
Yeah.
like I would even have to go borrow some.
Really?
And then even then, like you had the letters of the alphabet. You could only find you're lucky, a paragraph of four sentences about the subject.
Oh yeah, and it would take forever to find it, and it was just
Mhm.
it was awful on so many levels. And now
Yeah.
everything's every scientific journal, every article that you want is totally searchable for keywords, and it's just yeah, the power of technology has transformed the way we find information, learn new things, live life really. I
Mhm.
mean, used to have those conversations with people. Someone would be like, do you know the name of that actor who was in that movie about dogs with sleighs and stuff? And you're like, I don't really know. And then you both walk away from the conversation like, we'll just never know, will we? And now you're
Yep.
like, let me look up a dog movie with actor. Oh yeah, Sleigh Bells All the Way or whatever. And
Mhm.
it's just like you're just every answer is literally at the tip of your fingers, or just at the 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 words of your question that you would ask a virtual assistant or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
the information is limitless at this point, and it's kind of amazing that we have literally the answers to almost everything
Mhm.
available to us all the time, no matter where we are. Um, unless you're in a dire situation and you don't have cell service, and now you're going to die because you ate that real weird berry or something, and you're like, is that the good berry? I don't know, but I'm really hungry.
Right. Well, you look that up before you go.
Hopefully.
You hopefully look that up. But I just, yeah, there are still times when I have conversations with people and I'm like, wait a minute, I know the answer. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But yeah, it's a great time that we live in. Tech is just moving at, light speed right now. And I mean, there's so many things we can be excited about with what's going on right now. But I think we had a pretty good mix there. I think we did a good job there.
Yeah, I think that was a good mix of technology. I mean, you could name so many other things, but I think that's a good. It's kind of like the top to me, the top things that are in technology right now.
Exactly. So that's it for tonight or today. That's our show. But please spread the word. If you like what we're talking about and you like what you hear, share it with people. Let them know that we're on YouTube, Geeking Out Ninjas. We're on Facebook, and we're on wherever you listen to your podcast, even Apple Podcast, Spotify, you name it, we're there.
I feel like your brain was like, wait, need to access information from the interwebs, connection not found.
I told you earlier when we started, I've had back pain and I've been a little bit foggy. I didn't share this on with everybody, but I have taken a muscle relaxer. Not today,
Yeah,
but
the show wouldn't be nearly as good.
no. Well, it might have been better. I don't know.
Who knows? It could have been a whole different kind of show. But yeah, I think the important thing is if you are on any of those platforms, subscribe to us. Um, I don't, you can't really comment on podcasts, but if you see us on Facebook or YouTube, comment, leave us a comment. Make sure you like the video. That way the more you like it, the more it gets exposed to other people and so on and so forth. And we get to keep growing the podcast for other people. So
I think maybe next episode we should say this in the beginning.
we should definitely say this at the beginning. I don't know if anybody is listening at the end. Everybody's like, all right, they said we're done.
All right. Well, we're done then. This is it. We look forward to next week. Have a good day.
Ta-ta.